was just like, oh, I get it now. And that started me off on the journey that I've been on ever since. Hello! I hope everyone's having a great week so far. I filmed this video once before and didn't like the way that it turned out, so I'm redoing it now. And I'm doing it in my truck because I've realized that I think for me to act natural in front of the camera, I kind of need to be doing something else, or I need to be like outside. I can't just sit in my bedroom and stare at a camera and talk and act normal. Like, it doesn't come across good at all. Also, I've noticed that out of all the videos that I've posted so far, the ones that you guys seem to like the most, or that have like this consistent amount of views, are my vlogs, which are interesting because I didn't think anybody would really care. We're gonna get into it. This is such an awkward thing for me to talk about because it's different and it's out there and it's kind of just not your normal piece of conversation. Spirituality is a lot more popular now, I guess, than it used to be. This is still kind of fringe, and for me to talk about it, I feel awkward. So if that's how I'm coming across, I'm trying to be sincere and paint an accurate picture so you can understand my experience, but I don't know how it's gonna come across. But I want to get back to doing these kinds of videos about these kinds of topics with the spirituality and the dream interpretations and the kind of mysticism and that side of life that I am so fascinated by and has really impacted me in such a personal way. That's why I started making videos in the first place, and that's what I want to get back to. Of course, I'm still going to do the other stuff too, the random vlogs of me going different places and doing different things. That's not going to change, but this is what I want to do and this is what I want to talk about. And before I can get into all that other stuff, I feel like I need to talk about how it all began and how it all started for me. That is what this video is. It's the story of my epiphany, as Stuart likes to call it, because I think to call it an awakening or anything like that makes it sound too dramatic. It was just an epiphany. I reached a point where a light bulb went off. So this is a little bit of a story time, a little bit of my background and how I reached the point where I am now, to where I see the world the way that I do. Before anything else, if it's your first time here, thank you so much for showing up. I'm really happy to have you here. You should go ahead and subscribe. I try to make videos every single week. Also, follow me on Instagram. I do IGTV videos as well. All of that aside, I'm gonna start driving and we're gonna get into it. So back in 2015, that was the first year that I was living on my own. I had moved out of my house and I was actually living in Cuba at the time. And I don't know if you guys are familiar, but I saw a movie that year called Prometheus, and it's actually part of the Alien versus Predator storyline universe. I didn't know that. It's like the prequel to the series. And if I had known that, things probably would have made a lot more sense. But as it was, I had never seen any of those movies at that point. Didn't know what I was getting myself into. I was watching it with my boyfriend at the time, and we just thought it was some science fiction-y type post-apocalyptic movie, which is one of my favorite genres of movie, probably, if not my top favorite.
These are ancient civilizations that were separated by centuries, and yet this same pictogram was discovered in every one of them.
We're all here because of a map you two kids found in a cave.
Not a map, an invitation.
From whom?
That wasn't at all what we got, and by the time the movie ended, we were both just kind of sitting there like, what the hell did we just watch? Like, that was the weirdest thing. I don't even know what that was. And it was late at night by that point. I think it was like 11:30 at night, so it was on like a weekend or whatever. And we were supposed to go to bed like responsible people, but we couldn't because we couldn't sleep, because the movie and just like all the thoughts that it brought up were kind of just spinning through our heads. So finally we were like, you know what? Let's just go out, we'll go out on the patio, we'll sit, we'll talk, we'll just try to chill out, and you know, whenever we get tired, we'll go to bed. Just to give you guys a little bit of context for where my mind was at this point, I was raised in a very traditional Catholic home, and I still have a lot of love for Catholicism despite a lot of the not great things that have come out about the church in recent years. I respect the heritage and I respect the tradition and everything else, and you know, I'll never diss the Catholic Church. I've never dissed religion in general. That's not how I want anything that I say to come across. But at any rate, that was how I was raised, and that was the background that I was coming from. But now I was living out on my own, and I was having to figure things out for myself. And even though I still believed all the same things that I had been brought up to believe, I was realizing that maybe the way that I had been told to believe them might not be the most accurate or the most applicable at any rate. And I was really just in a place of searching. I was trying to figure out life, my place in everything. I was just having a lot of questions. I think in a lot of ways I was having a bit of an existential crisis, and I didn't realize that at the time, but looking back on it now, I think that's probably what was going on. Anyway, I was in a point in my life where I was looking for answers, and I was really questioning my reality and my viewpoint on the world. I think it was definitely time for a shift. So we go out and we're talking. We started talking about sacred geometry and the Fibonacci sequence and the golden spiral and chakras and energy and auras, and all of a sudden something started to click, and my entire viewpoint of the world and my place in it and even God just completely changed. It exploded, and I can remember sitting there, and it felt like my brain was just like, I could feel the neurons firing. It was so intense. I remember looking out at the night and the trees and the stars and the hills and listening to the crickets, and I was seeing it all differently. It was like I was seeing everything connected. Everything is connected, but I don't think we think about that, and we don't have the viewpoint of it that we should. But in that moment, I was seeing everything connected like by a web, and it was me to the smallest insect, and the smallest insect to the most brilliant star in the sky, and then back to me and the trees and the birds and the people and even God, and I felt like I was losing my mind a little bit. I remember realizing my whole concept of God this whole time has been too small. I have been putting God in a box, basically, and I'm not trying to get super religious with this, but I will be honest with you and tell you that I have and always will have a belief in a higher power. You can call it God, you can call it the universe, you can call it whatever you want. I choose to call it God. I realized that I had been putting God in a box. I had been minimizing that energy, that consciousness, that higher power to a manageable, understandable level, which I think is just human nature. But I realized that I was missing so much of the bigger picture. I just remember having this emotion and feeling just wash over me, this understanding, and with that understanding came just this complete unconditional love, complete acceptance, complete peace, just total bliss. And it was just like, yes, this is God, this is what life is, this is who you are, and you are a part of everything. And I remember crying because I was just feeling such a release of emotion and so much joy, really. It was just pure joy. It completely changed everything. And I can truthfully say that from that moment on, nothing has been the same. My core beliefs and values haven't changed, but I do think that they have broadened because of that experience. And I just have to say and make sure you understand, I went through this entire experience stone cold sober. There was nothing in my system, nothing that was going on to induce that state of mind or to induce the things that I was seeing and feeling. I wasn't having audio, visual hallucinations in the traditional sense of the word. It was all internal. It was all happening inside. I was seeing all of these things internally and experiencing everything internally, but that doesn't make it any less intense. It was one of the most intense experiences I've ever had, and I don't know why it happened at that time, what encouraged that experience to unfold. Other than that, I must have just been in the mindset and in the space where I was ready to take that step and accept reality as something more than what I had been imagining it to be. I think all of my life I had kind of been minimizing my existence and just reality and everything in general. It was like I had a very small piece of the puzzle, and after that moment I was given 15 more puzzle pieces, and suddenly I had a much, much broader sense of everything. I was seeing a bigger chunk of the picture that I hadn't been seeing before. Now I had all these extra pieces of the puzzle. It opened everything up, and nothing was the same after that moment. I call it an epiphany because of the fact that it wasn't like I suddenly knew things I hadn't known before. I'd always had a sense of this stuff. I'd always had a sense that there was more to life than what I was allowing myself to see, that there was more to reality, and I think that that's why I was questioning things so much. It was just like, oh, I get it now. And that started me off on the journey that I've been on ever since. I don't think I've found the meaning or anything like that, but I think that I'm maybe a step closer than I was before. I think the tendency for a lot of people, especially because of the fact that we live in a community or a society that really values knowledge and logic and science over anything else, it's very possible for us to discount a lot of people's personal experiences and the things that they've had happen to them because it's not quantifiable or understandable. It defies logic. And I would never sit here and say that because I had the experiences that I had and I now have the perspective that I have, that anyone should have that. That's not what I am saying at all. I think that is a personal decision that is up to the individual to decide. You have to decide what you'll believe in, what you'll have faith in, what you'll trust in. And for me, I've had experiences and been through things and seen things that have reinforced what I believe. So for me, it makes sense and it's very logical. And I just think we need to move towards a place where we can appreciate people's experiences maybe a little bit more than we do currently. As kind of terrifying and confusing as that experience was at the time, it was the stepping stone that launched me into where I am now, and I'm so grateful that I had that experience. I don't know why it happened, when it did, and how it did. I'm not going to question it too much because everything happens for a reason, and it was meant to happen at that time the way that it did. And I wish I could say that after I had that experience, everything was just like, smooth sailing and I was so woke and, blah, 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 but that would be complete nonsense. Like, that's not the truth whatsoever. Everything after that, honestly, I think it got harder because I was more aware of just what was happening around me, what was happening in the space that I was occupying, the energies that were around me. It's been a process, it's been a journey. There's been ups and there's been downs. So that is basically my story. That is how everything began. My epiphany, my origin. I feel like all my life I was gearing up to that moment to have that experience. And I feel like that has continued and I am evolving. I'm spiraling out, if you will, from that experience towards more. And I don't know where the road's going to lead me, but I am open to the experiences that I have, the people that I meet. It has brought me peace and helped me deal with a lot of the existential issues that I was having and had pretty much all my life up to that point. If you've had an experience like this, I would love to hear about it. We have to help each other out. We're all in this together. Let me know what you thought in the comments if you have a question or a theory or anything. I love it all. But I think for now, that basically wraps this video up. I will be doing my best to get it up within a week. So hopefully you guys will be seeing this here pretty soon. One just like kind of housekeeping note, I am going to be going on vacation coming up here pretty soon for a couple of weeks, so I don't know for sure that I'm going to be posting any videos during that time. I do have some projects that I'm going to be working on. Stay tuned for those. Go ahead and give this video a like, subscribe, that would be cool, and I will see you again soon for the next video.